Well, hello and welcome back to Spivey Talks. Of course, I am Spivey, your host. So, as one might expect from the thumbnail, if you did get to see it before it went up live, we are talking about threesomes for tonight's issue for 100 Proof Talks. Now, yes, I have been drinking today, and I dare say today's been a very unique day. First and foremost, I want to point out that I have gotten back into trying to work out and get in shape like I should be. Second, that I truly have found my joy again in some of the work that I do. So I don't know if you noticed it, but I did a collaboration for those of you who saw it the other day, and I had so much fun. And then after the collaboration, immediately thereafter, I went to a yard show, a Greek yard show, and then immediately after that was a Greek probate show, and then in 2 days is another Greek show that I was asked, initially asked to go out and do the photography for as well because they like my work so much immediately. And I've even been asked to go out of state just from this first day of going back doing some photography work in front of people. So I mean, the joy that I have at people appreciating my work and liking what I do and my art, that's the greatest compliment, if you will. So, um, I just wanted to let everybody know, and you can literally see the joy in me and hear the difference in my voice. Hopefully, now mind you, it is just after midnight, so I'm trying to be a bit respectful because there are people here that are asleep. Um, but yeah, whatever. So I'm doing decently in that regard, rather. Okay, so um, now to the issue at hand. We are talking about the morality of threesomes from the standpoint of Christianity as well as Judaism. Now, by default, I'm pretty sure you can imagine which side I more so lean towards, and this actually that I lean towards, and even more so. Um, but for background, so you understand, my household was very split, if you will. Okay, so my mother was raised to be Catholic, but she converted to Christianity. My father's side is Jewish, so um, there in my when they separated, I was actually raised to be Christian, but further reflection and soul searching, if you will, I found that for me, Christianity was not the path, that it was not for me. So I then took up the study of Judaism and, gone about that route. So, but for each his own, whatever you feel is the truth that, you need to follow for you, do your thing. Okay. So continuing on. Now we're going to get into the meat of the situation. So, oh, mind you, as you've probably started to figure out, I do like a themed week situation. So, obviously, because of this request, this week will be starting off a sexual week. Okay, so the topics for each of the live videos, or even potentially a pre recording that I'll do, will be of a sexual nature. Okay. And believe it or not, I've actually had several people, once I announced it, tell me that they by default want me to like extend it so that they can be on and say their piece on these issues. I mean, one person is so excited. She is like 5 or 6 different topics she wants to go into, and I'm like, okay, I have no problem with it, and I'm sure some of you out there don't have a problem either. But let's get right into it. So, um, sex, specifically threesomes. My personal views, I think I'll get out the way first before I go into a stance or belief of stance for the two different sides of those two religions. Okay. Um, they're awesome. Threesomes are awesome. I myself have participated in several, um, and they're awesome. They're just a lot of fun. Um, of course, because I am straight, in the event that the girl had two guys there, which is me and another guy, me and the other guy at no point connected or touched, that no, that no. Like you stay on that side, I'm on this side, and never the twain shall meet. So, yeah. So okay. So continuing on from this. Now you know, I say it's awesome. We're gonna continue. Now, from a Christian standpoint, it's wildly misconceived, as far as I understand it, um, that sex before marriage is horrible. But that's not something that's actually in the Bible. It's not. The only time really that goes into things that are not preferred is, of course, you have like your sodomy situation, Sodom and Gomorrah, and oddly enough, even incest is okay at points, or rape is even okay at points in the Bible. So it has its own gray lines for a lot of these subjects. Okay, and there's nothing specific on group sex being bad, as far as I can recall, that I've ever come across. Um, I just don't remember ever coming across it. Now, of course, it is pressured and encouraged that you wait till you're married, and that really became something that was very prevalent as of, I want to say, 3 generations ago. Um, but the weird thing about even that was that before this time period, everybody was getting married at like 13, 14, 15. 15, you wasn't married. Something was probably wrong with you, or at least that's how society viewed it. They were trying to marry you off extremely young, especially females. Um, so that's a whole nother scenario. Plus, if you're in America during, some of this time, and especially if you were black, you didn't have a say in this anyway. Um, a lot of media, TV, and whatnot gives you this impression that it's grown adults, whatever, that's getting paired off and married, but that wasn't the documented history. Documented history says the exact opposite. Um, you get married off young, go off so that you could be fruitful and multiply and whatnot. Um, but some people disagree, but facts are there. Check it out. I think the funniest stance of that is like taking Shakespeare, for example. People don't realize these were kids in Shakespeare's play of Romeo and Juliet, talking about how she was an old maid, and it's that's not the point. So, in Christianity, the agenda is pushed to make you believe that it's bad to have premarital sex altogether. So, because you would imagine majority of the sex that you're going to have in threesome scenarios will probably be before you're married. Now, true, there are things like swingers and polyamorous groups out there, but predominantly the expected time that someone would have a threesome would be before they're married. So, if that's the case, then what you have is people going out for fun and enjoying themselves. And the Christian standpoint is they don't want you to do that because they want you to get married. Now, in the past, the reason that that's important is that the church, Catholicism, church leading the way, um, told you that there were a lot of things that were sins. And basically, think of it like a bookie. They had this big old book that said you can't do this, 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 and this. And if you did, you had to pay this much money. Okay. So the problem with that being you didn't make much money. So if you committed this, 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 and this sin, you've always been told since birth that you're going to go to hell and you're going to burn unless you can get, absolved of the sin. And so people scared out their mind that they're doing something wrong. Now they have to go to the church, confess their sin, and pay money, actual money. That's the original way to pay for your sins with the Catholic Church, was to literally pay money and or do service for the church. Okay, so let's say you're broke because you only make 3 pennies a month, which actually would be probably about accurate. Then since you can't pay the X amount of silver or gold, that fine of the violation that you did, that the church says it's worth, or the hundreds of hours that each crime would be equivalent to in prayer, because you still need to get up and go and do work, then what you would do, because to buy that absolution, you would pay a monk or a priest to pray for you. And it wouldn't be just one. They would divide the hundreds of hours per sinning offense that you did amongst themselves and pray for you. So that's, if you ever stop and think, what was the function of a monastery other than to make wine? It was to pray for the sins of people who paid to get their sins absolved. And this is history. Again, this isn't just me coming up with something off my dome. This is actual history. So you would pay them, or you would do service for the church, and the church would pay the monastery monks, whatnot, to do X amount of prayer. So let's say it was 2 months worth of prayers, like 1,500 hours or whatever massive amount of prayer was required to resolve you of that sin. They would then say, well, we have 55 monks over here, and we're going to tell each one of them to pray X amount of days for this many hours to absolve you of that one sin. Yeah, that's how that worked. And then, of course, if you weren't doing the pilgrimage to Jerusalem, which was something that you were actually encouraged or told you had to do, and if you couldn't, again, you had to pay, or pay somebody to go in your stead. So there was a lot of bartering and trading, and you now are basically indentured to the church or whatnot. Again, if you don't believe it, do your research. I've done mine. So moving on. And that later on gets you into the whole situation of masonry and what really happened as to why the church has problems with masonry. But that's not for today. So continuing on. So that's that old breakdown with those situations. Now you also have the opposite side. You have the Judaism side, the Jewish side. The Jewish side is much more open and accepting of sexuality and sex, and is definitely more of a yay kind of situation, with the exception of some, like, orthodox, you could say, sort of. It's, well, there's certain groups that are very, very unique with their view, like, separating men from women and sex through it. Anyway, so that's not what's important. But for the most part, under Judaism, there's no problem with premarital sex. Now, of course, it is still preferred that you're married, but there's no actual problem with premarital sex. And so a lot of people still encourage you, like I say, to get married first. But since there's nothing that can be found saying you can't do it, okay. Now, crazy enough, there actually is a problem with masturbating. It's not 100%, but it is definitely, I would say they'd rather you have sex than masturbate. For men. For women, do your thing. You're great. But for men, it's seen as, and the early fear was that you were going to create demons because you were creating this impure situation of exposed semen. Okay, so, and that would taint not just yourself, it would make you impure, but anybody around you, the community, especially anybody who has any kind of contact or with that semen, because shit gets everywhere. So, so, and to this day, people still view just semen exposed by a guy to be like weird, nasty, or whatnot, and that's still part of that mindset, if you will. So as funny as it may sound, you'd be better, like, if you're having oral sex, for her to swallow it or take it in her mouth and then go spit it into some kind of container than to masturbate. Hilarious how awesome that can work out. But again, this is not, if you think I'm joking, look it up. There's whole sections in the Talmud and the Kabbalah situation that go into sex, and honestly, sex can in some forms be seen as getting closer to God. That yeah. So we actually have mitzvahs where the man is supposed to please his partner, his wife, and that's what you're supposed to do. There's old breakdowns that tells you specifically, like, based on your job, how often you're supposed to have sex with your wife by default. Like, you have a minimum. You need to do this many times within this period of time. Yeah. Now, of course, a lot of this stems from the very basic and beginning. What is it? Genesis, was it 20 something? Hold on. Give me 1 second. I think I have it up on the screen here. Give me just a moment. It's the, nope, not that one. That's dealing with homosexuality. We'll get to that potentially in a moment. I think I put it in the other window. I wanted to have it up so I could quote it properly, because you know how people get mad if you did misquote something. So Genesis 1 and 28. Be fruitful and multiply, or increase and fill the world, depending on your interpretation of the Bible, the Torah, whatever you got. Basically, this actually comes before Adam and Eve. So who is he telling to be fruitful and multiply if this is before Adam and Eve? And this is before any other laws, commandments saying, follow the Sabbath, whatever the case may be, whatever you believe. Be fruitful and multiply, which means have sex, which gives you an understanding why, the Catholics feel like you supposed to have sex, but not with a condom. So, because again, and even under Jewish standings, a condom and contraceptives can be seen as very bad, especially on the men's side, because you are stopping or hindering the potential children. Matter of fact, there's a story of a man being destroyed, killed by God because he was wasting his seed. So, and that goes back towards masturbation as well. So, and then some people twist that and try to say, oh, well, that would be the same thing for gay sex, because there's no potential for having a child if you're a man and a man. That's wasting seed. So, again, I'm not here to debate it with you. I'm just giving you the facts as I understand them and as I see them. By all means, I highly encourage any and every person to go out and research it for yourself based on your personal religious beliefs. The great thing, in my opinion, one of the great things about Judaism, being Jewish, is that if you don't fully understand something, you're not obliged to follow it until you do understand it fully. So, yeah. No, that's not saying, hey, you can just get away with murder and it's not wrong. It's just saying question everything, find out the truth of it. If you don't fully understand it, then that's not for you yet. And you're supposed to strive to get there. So, yeah. Now, there are different situations and stuff about like having sex with a woman on her period. That's not good. That's not what's hot. Again, that's a whole nother impurity situation. And there at one point was the same thing for having like a wet dream as a guy. That's still seen as exposed semen. So, but that's not really paid attention to much anymore. Um, because then you'd have to go and take like a bath in like a natural flowing river, or, source of water, or have a like a pool that's made specifically for you to get in because of the semen, or for the women, the menstrual blood. So yeah, there's a lot of scenarios with that. So in short, because I don't want to ramble away into too much religious talk when clearly this is supposed to be more so about yay or nay for each side. For Judaism, yay. For Christianity, eh. But again, there is nothing saying you can't do it. However, if you are married, breaking that covenant with your wife or husband is always seen as bad, period, by everybody. Now, I don't know if that means if you have an understanding and agreement that you can have a threesome, does that still keep within it? Or if that breaks it, I don't know. I would highly recommend you speak to your pastor, your spiritual leader, your rabbi, whatever you personally have. I've had threesomes. I enjoyed it. And yeah. So do you, and do her, do him, whatever your case is. But always please remember that no matter what your religious beliefs are, you can still catch something or wind up with a baby. Um, and one would hope, of course, that you're ready for these situations. So be safe and be aware and conscious. And of course, make sure that you're following completely um, legal guidelines as far as where you're at, because crazy enough, in a lot of states, there are still different rules and laws that say you can and can't perform certain sexual acts. So if somebody wants to be a dick, you can go to jail for certain common things. Just be mindful of that, because again, I always preach that you know the law in your area and that you are aware of what you're doing. On that note, I think we're pretty much good for this particular night of the topic. But oh boy, over the next few days, these topics of sexuality, of course. Matter of fact, I think I might extend this to being a whole week. Like from what's today? Wednesday? Today, yes, today is Wednesday. So there's a chance I probably won't stop this conversation topic until Wednesday. Sexuality, that is, not just threesomes. So I might even do like a story time. Technically, I guess I did do one dealing with this. Anyway, like, subscribe, comment down below. Tell me what your religious understandings, beliefs are, if any, or any, if you feel like you're bold enough to say what kind of experience you've had, or know of a friend who had an experience with a threesome. Comment down below. We definitely, and by we I mean myself and any other fans of the show, um, or the channel rather, would like to know what you got to say. Thank you. And make sure you check out my Instagram. I did say a while ago that I would have my um, Patreon up. I am still editing the video for my Patreon because I want to make it good, and then I will have it up. So be sure to check back for that if you want to donate to help out. I could use it. I need to get like some better microphone, and it's, yeah, there's some stuff. I'll go into my situation as far as what I'm trying to upgrade and get better with for you. So be sure to come back and check out the channel. Love you all. Y'all have a good night and or morning.